Meet the cereal kids are crazy for, Cthulhu. Start your morning madness with a bowl of morning happiness.
Cthulhu sale is ongoing now. You will take part. Save up to 33% off gem bundles. You will take part.
Crazy crispity, crazy crunchity, crazy
Select chests up to 50% off. You will take part. Boosters, avatars, wards, and more up to 50% off. You will take part. Party up with up to 3 times favor. Worshippers and XP. You will take part. This is your duty.
Crazy Cthulhu-y. Cthulhu. Surgeon General's warning, Cthulhu's are not of this world and should not be ingested by children or adults over the age of 80. Gems are not included as a prize because Cthulhu's are not real. Reality is meaningless, time is a construct. Abandon all hope when you ingest Cthulhu's. Use as directed, part of balanced breakfast. For the crispity, crunchity, crazy crunch, get cuckoo with Cthulhu.
You will take part.
Of a balanced breakfast.
Can we take...
I'm suddenly jealous of 2 things. One, that Joe Bro got to eat Apple Jacks while filming that commercial. I haven't had Apple Jacks in years, and now I want some desperately bad. And I'm also jealous of you viewers at home, because you can take advantage of the Cthulhu's gem sale that's going on from August 20th. That's already passed, of course. But it's still going on, don't you worry. September 6th is when that will end. So counting today, I don't know, 4 days, 5 days, I don't know, something like that. Counting today, September 6th is when that one ends. So make sure to jump in, get some of those discounted gems, and spend them on some discounted chests and avatars and those sorts of fun things. The Cthulhu's gem sale going on till September 6th. We are done with the EU portion of our day, though. And to join me to welcome in the North American portion of our day is none other than Mifflin himself. Miff, happy to have you here with me. You are my Sherpa through the mountains of NASCC.
Yeah, they're treacherous, Dave. They are treacherous waters on this mountain. I am going to Sherpa you.
Waters on this mountain?
Yeah, there's so many waters on this mountain, and smoke on the water in the mountains.
Got it. Yeah, Miff has been on a music kick here over the last little bit. We got a speaker going in the green room and everything. Miff is on an absolute tear today. Let's see what the schedule has looked like up to this point today, and will look like for the rest of the day. 3-game sets abound over in EEU, and then Sturdy Artisans versus Sleekness will start us off here in North America. Tiburones versus Herculean Hooves will be the 4th and final set that we will have for you on broadcast today. That Average Joe's versus Winter Dogs game, going to be an absolute blast to watch, but unfortunately you're going to have to wait until Sunday after the Phase 2 finals of the SPL round on out. We'll be showing that after that broadcast. Let's see what the North American standings look like going into these matchups as well. Herculean Hooves up 4-0 in the standings here. Sturdy Artisans at 2-2. This is an important one for them to try to keep some pace with the Herculean Hooves and Winter Dogs, because one of those 2 teams, whether it's Hooves or Dogs, are going to lose later on in the weekend. So Sturdy Artisans versus Sleekness becomes very important. It is very important to mention, though, Mifflin, that this set will start as 1-0 for the Sturdy Artisans, because Sleekness was DQ'd in game number 1. So as of right now, we are talking about game 2. This is game 2 now, Mifflin, and I always forget that. We are in game 2. That is 4. Take away, there you go. Game 2 is where we are, because the Sturdy Artisans get a free win in game 1 after a DQ against Sleekness. So we head on into the conversation around the Sleekness team, DQ notwithstanding. Dude Man Bro 429, Oath, Nehu, Chronic, and Sharks. Normally that would be Oceans, but Sharks is going to be filling in as coach/sub here for this set. A team that has some talent, Miff, and they've shown the ability to grow and adapt here in the SCC.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about this substitutions. Ocean is like a hallmark of this team. He's the sole source of SPL talent and was the shot caller as well. So with Sharks coming in, he's got some big shoes to fill. Luckily, the rest of the squad are not slouchers, be it Chronic, Nehu, Oath, Dude Man. And they're down a game. Oh, man. Sleekness. Put your fingers together, or hands together, rather, to get the steeple going. Pray for your boys if you're a Sleekness fan.
Here's the good
I'm
news.
trying to say. Oh, save me.
Is that Sharks is going to be in-game, in comms.
Yes.
With the squad. So you need that coach mentality to keep everyone's mental kind of even, right? And so Sharks will be in-game with the squad. But yeah, look, Oceans it's a big loss for this team.
Big shark, that guy.
What?
Oceans is a shark.
I hate that for you. I hate that for you. No, but this is a Sleekness team that has talent abound. It's just about putting those pieces together. The problem is NA is just so competitive. It's so hard to find wins in the NA SCC because it feels like on any given day, teams are taking games, taking sets off one another, and that's exactly what Sleekness are going to have to do in back-to-back games here after being one game down already to the Sturdy Artisans, a team with some names that you'll probably recognize here: Griff, Relentless One, Moswell, Pagon, and Ionic. This is a stacked roster.
It really is, man. Lots of veteran talent here. Ionic likely going to be acting as the shot caller for this team. Kind of seems like a lot of supports are shot calling at the SCC level.
Yeah,
but this
can
is
you
a
believe
squad that I think has the gumption, the ability to go all the way. And Sturdy Artisans have proven that time and time again. And again, are coming into this set with a one-game advantage as Sleekness was DQ'd for Game 1. I'm excited for this one, man. Ionic is a guy that I love to follow throughout his entire career. Griff actually featured in This Month in Smite very recently. If you guys want to check that out, make sure you're following our socials and our YouTube channels. But look, every single one of these guys is ripe with talent, and I expect great things from them. Actually, Ionic, did he move to mid? Do we have confirmation on that?
No, I don't. I'm assuming not, because last time we saw this team play, remember when you might have seen the highlight of me going all auctioneer.
Yes.
That was last week. This team really put me through the ringer as far as
it's like 50 kills.
Yeah, it was like 50 kills.
20 minutes.
Moswell got a pentakill. Actually, I don't remember if it was this game or not. Moswell was on hell, and that's the important thing to remember, and got a pentakill last week in like a 50-kill SCC game. So this is a cannon that is locked and loaded and ready to fire off here for the Sturdy Artisans, and you've got one game in hand. You got to feel comfortable winning one game here in this set,
Just need
right?
one.
You just need one, but that might be a dangerous mentality where you're like, we got 2 games, we can win one of these 2. You don't want to slack off because, as we've mentioned, this Sleekness team, despite playing with Sharks instead of Oceans,
Who is a shark?
Right?
Nice.
We're doubling down on a mediocre bit, but
better
same
than
idea.
bad.
What's that?
It's better than bad.
You're right, but it's not good.
Yeah, but it's better than bad.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Miff. I'm going to bail you out once more because Picks and Bans
God, he's
are
good.
starting off here for game number 1 between the Sturdy Artisans and Sleekness. Now, this is a region that loves to run it down, and we saw some high-paced early games from EU in the sets today that then kind of smoothed out, slowed down as the game went on. NA, for better or for worse, that's an argument that I'm not going to have right here.
I mean, I'd be willing.
They keep that pace going the entire time. They run it down, and then they keep running it down. It feels like whether they're ahead or they're behind. So you might expect Picks and Bans to start to reflect that. We are seeing some similarities between the two regions here. Tiamat prioritized effectively everywhere, Miff. And then Seoul, Sobek, and Yamoja will be taken away here by Sleekness. So maybe no surprises through the first 6, as Odin also takes a seat.
Largely standard. Here's the thing about North American SCC
Okay,
teams,
we're going
Dave.
back to it.
Every single one of them wants to be the Jade Dragons. They all are idolizing the Jade Dragons. I've seen into every single one of these individual players' rooms, and they've got Jade Dragons posters, all right? That's how much I know.
Are you like the Santa Claus of the SPL?
I'm the Santa Claus of the SCC.
Oh, right, the SCC, I guess?
Yeah.
That weird song, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Sees you when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake. Isn't that just...
That's kind of stalkerish.
We've kind of glossed over that, I think, through the years. But Miff, the
Well, how's
Santa
he gonna
Claus,
know?
the Santa Claus of the SCC, because he knows that all these guys have Jade Dragons merch on the walls. God, I was about to start talking about Jade Dragons. Phase 2 playoffs, so close. That's tomorrow. We're going to get to see how a lot of these teams are looking as the weekend stretches on. Not a gimme set for the Jade Dragons tomorrow. Not a gimme set for either of these two
Dave,
teams
we gotta do
either.
it here, man.
Despite, you know what? I already messed up, Miff. I said Picks and Bans for game 1, and I told you I mess it up all the time when a
game
DQ happens.
2.
It's game 2. I even made Miff hold up 2 fingers, and I've already
I'll do it
dropped the ball.
twice. So nice.
Yeah, great. Now we're in game 4 here. According, I'm on the finger metric. Let's catch up in the Picks and Bans here, Miff. Xingchen, Gilgamesh, and Heimdall for the Sturdy Artisans. Raijin, Osiris, and Izanami. I mean, talk about late game damage. And some control here with this Osiris. You got a Raijin and an Iza. Your carries are feeling good.
That's a ton of pressure across the board already. Mid should largely be controlled. I'm not certain where the Artisan's going to go with their pick, but Raijin generally should have kill pressure as well as lane pressure very early on.
Not Zhang Kui.
And, well, no, Zhang Kui, not an option anymore. They saw the EU SCC and how well he was able to perform.
That's right.
And don't want to see a repeat of that. And Izanami, similarly to Raijin, is going to get lane pressure. I don't care who you put with her. She just auto-attacks the entire wave on cooldown. Likely going to be a very invade-focused style here from Sleekness.
Sleekness go with Ares here. And so that could be pretty potent. Xing Chen has some of the CC immunity. Heimdall does as well. And this is a pick we have not seen in a little while here, Mifflin. King Arthur has seen 3 picks in all of the North American SCC. I couldn't tell you the last time we saw King Arthur in the SPL. What's the status of King Arthur here at the moment? I mean, are we feeling good that we've got him in the solo lane?
Look, I think King Arthur is still incredibly strong, Dave.
Sure.
He's got great bully potential. He's really good at controlling the pace of a lane. He still has more abilities than the majority of gods within the cast, and he only really fell off because I think we don't see Bluestone as the starter as often as we used to. Generally, it's that fighter's mask that you want to pick up immediately and do like a Sundering Axe, but if King Arthur is able to establish the lead in the early, and generally he still should be able to do so because his damage output is ridiculous, you can go Fighter's Mask immediately into the Bluestone Pendant. You're kind of dealing a ton of damage after that.
Yep.
Does leave you susceptible to ganks, though, and you don't want to be susceptible to ganks when Gilgamesh is on the other side.
And Miff, if we're talking about last picks here, Morgan Le Fay gets left open to the final pick. The Sturdy Artisans have a draft. Do you think that can take this one in 2?
I think so, man. This Surcat is the only hangout for me. It's just whether or not you're able to execute on it. She's a very high execution-focused god, especially out of the support role. That said, Xing Chen and actually Gilgamesh locked in. This is interesting. Maybe Gilgamesh support Surcat jungle? There's the potential for a flex there. Xing Chen likely going into the soul.
We've also seen, we've seen Surcat support as well, so there's some versatility in the Sturdy Artisans draft. The Sturdy Artisans playing with house money here in Game 1. Can they take it in Game number 2? We'll jump in to find out.
Curious where all these compositions are going to lie out here. We'll see where it lands, and it will be Xing Chen for support this time around. Not what we're used to seeing out of this god. He's been seen more traditional out of solo lane, but be brought here for Ionic's hand. It's J-Mac and Taco joining me for this set, and Doug will be our spectator as per usual, but Sleekness have got a little bit of a deficit they're playing on. I can't really say a deficit. I haven't seen Sharks play just yet, but Sharks will be stepping in the support role in place for the Sleekness in this game.
And Sturdy Artisans, well, they've got Ionic rocking and holding it down with the Xing 10, and again, it's just 2 teams that I think are really trying to leverage over the other for that 3rd place position here, J-Mac. But this is definitely a good spot for the Sturdy Artisans to be in terms of just having that 1-game advantage outright.
Yeah, if you just now tuned in right as the game started and missed it, there was a 1-game forfeit for Sleekness at the very beginning as they had to take a DQ. And now we're here in technically game number 2 of Sleekness versus Sturdy Artisans of the set. Sturdy Artisans have a nice 1-0 up over their opposition to start it all out. And they're going to go with an Ares, which traditionally when you have a sub coming in for your coach, you don't go with something like Ares. You typically give them something a little bit safer. You give them like a Fafnir, or give them a Ymir or something like that. But this is a very proactive pick here for Sleekness.
It's a little bit of risk, but the reward is great for sure here. The cripple effect off of those chains is without a doubt going to be one of the more impactful aspects of crowd control here for Sleekness to utilize throughout the game. And it's not so much about the laning phase. You have to anticipate that Heimdall, Xing 10, that's just a little bit more aggression that they can try and channel and sort of bully out Sharks and Doomambro there in the duo lane early on. But Sharks, all he realistically has to do is connect 1 chain. If he can get the cripple applied to at least 1 target focus, then that's all that Sleekness should need in order to burst him down and take him out of the fight.
Especially when he gets that no escape online. If he can just get the beads out just a little sooner, or maybe if both can take it away from them, maybe baiting it out from the stun from the Osiris Tether or the root from the ultimate, that sets up really nicely for Sharks towards the later stages of the game. Unfortunately for him, he's dealing with 4 gods that have CC immunity in their kits. The only one without it would be Relentless One out of the solo lane, but he's already made remedies to that and picked up Purification Beads as his first relic.
And it's not that unusual to see some of the more defensive sort of relic usage coming out, especially for a lot of these carries. But again, with those Purification Beads online for Relentless One, even though it might seem a little bit unusual, I think it's really just to prevent Chronic from kind of having the same sort of mentality that's taking place right now in the duo lane already for Sturdy Artisans. It's just that outright bully potential.
We see Sharks and Dude Man rotating over towards purple, and Moswall is not safe trying to go towards his red buff. He'll be able to make it out for the time being because of Pagon's rotation. Isn't able to find Nehu. Nehu uses the beads to get away, and Oath is still looking for a fight, but that Dragon Flight is just a little too much to handle, and first blood goes to the Artisans.
A nice turnaround there from Moswall. The escape as well could not have been, well, I don't think that it was really all that intentional there from Moswall. Purification beads were expended. Same case scenario there for Nehu, however, so that's definitely a tough loss there for Sleekness, considering they were the ones trying to be aggressive. Dumambro as well, doing an excellent job to confirm his purple buff, but an unfortunate overstep there by Sharks. It's going to be an Ares accidentally picking up that buff instead.
Nah, that's no accident. Ares has attack speed. Bring it every single day. You get more auto attacks in between those chain flurries. I mean, you can get some extra damage, but in all honesty, it's not the biggest oversight as Dude Man is able to full clear this wave with just his basics alone, since he does have those boomerang penetrating auto attacks with it. So not too worried, but it never does feel good losing your purple buff by accident like that. Oh, or your life.
Yeah, it definitely feels a lot worse right now to beat Chronic, given the fact that we haven't seen King Arthur in some time. He's definitely made a couple of guest appearances recently in the SPL. I can't recall which team exactly, but I do remember him having been pulled up. But it was only one of those kind of one-off scenarios. And so to see him here for Chronic, and then to see him get soloed further, it's kind of just adding on to things. I can't help but think that Gilgamesh now sort of just gets to take full control of this solo lane J-Mac. He's already got the level advantage, the gold as well from the miss farm because Chronic has that blink. He doesn't have a teleport.
Pagon just snuck right behind Sharks, and I don't think Sharks even recognized the fact he was back there. It wasn't until Dude Man actually called it out that he turned around and noticed that Pagon had rotated right behind him. But maybe if you're a King Arthur fan, you get to see a nice little bit here for him at least debuting, but maybe if you're less of a King Arthur fan, it's an ode to joy seeing King Arthur falling down. We do get to take a nice look at the solo kill, drop kick into the minion. Well, there's just nowhere for him to go. It's slowed inside the winds, and a nice easy pickup here for Relentless One.
The disadvantages of not having those purification beads earlier on, but Oath gonna help ensure that his solo laner will be able to confirm his blue buff. However, it's not completely for free. Heroes leap away for Relentless One, but an overshot from Oath on that Lord of the Afterlife. Relentless One, he buys
boots.
time, but not enough.
Not quite enough for the Jukes. Able to get away and buy a little bit of time, but just Pagon a little slow on the rotation coming back to help him out. That'll be a death on the back of Relentless One, now sitting 1-1 from that solo lane. And Chronic, even despite that, picking up of a kill, does not fully close that gap that Relentless One has started up just yet. Still struggling to keep up with the farm, though he does manage to tick finally over into level 7 to at least match where Relentless One is now.
A really aggressive build pathway, though, so far for Relentless One. Actually opting not for the Void Shield path tree, but could be looking possibly for the Berserkers or even a Glass Shield, maybe even the Shifters. It's really all up to Relentless One to decide which pathway of aggression he wants to opt for, but that does buy some time at least for Chronic to try and make up for some of that farm that he missed earlier on.
Ultimate out of Sharks to try and grab Moswall, but it's not going to be successful in doing so. Instead, he'll get flung around by Ionic, who's able to pick him up with that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, still trying to dive the tower is Moswall and Ionic, but once Sharks and AU both make it comfortably into the safety of that tower, you do get to see that it will be a little bit of a back off here by the sturdy Artisans, not quite able to pick up that kill.
Can't say that I'm surprised, though, to see this early aggression coming out already between these two teams. I think that this is kind of just some of the action that we have come to know and love from the North American SCC.
It's always high-intensity action here. We are going to get back into action as quick as possible. Sorry for the brief pause coming through here from the players in, but already starting out aggressive. That's what you like to see out of Sharks. When you have these support subs that come in, or just these subs in general, they usually play very passive. You give them something safe. You give them something that they can't die on. But going aggressive with this Ares very early on, Sharks is trying to make some quick waves for his team and is at least putting a fight back, and that's what you like to see out of them.
The idea here, I'll hold that thought because there's a lot more action coming out
no, Sharks.
from Nehu. Moswall again with another Dragonflight collected kill, and that's going to be a pretty big advantage now for Moswall. Not so much in terms of experience. Nehu definitely still keeping even there for the most part, but it's largely just the gold that's going to start breaking away a little bit here from Moswall.
Chronic going to try and fight back against Relentless One and will get his revenge kill on the enemy solo laner. You know, take a solo kill for solo kill here as Chronic able to pick that up and extend his slash line to 2-1. Looking across the builds here, a bit of an interesting first item from Nehu. We don't often see a first item Bancroft's Talon.
It's just that sustain early on. I think that Raijin can definitely utilize some of that early power as well. And if you're just looking for adding on to that, it seems as though he's buckling down in that life or self-sustain tree.
Oath uses Lord of the Afterlife to get away from Ionic and Pagon, who had closed their gap in trying to shut him down. But with that ultimate, there'll be no further chase from the support, no further chase from the jungler as well. Instead, Pagon looking towards the mid lane. Won't find Nehu, but will find Sharks. Taunts him back. Moswell gets some damage, but a lot more return fire from Nehu as he nearly takes out Pagon almost instantly.
Yeah, no, Pagan wanted to deal damage to Sharks. Instead, he ends up eating his entire HP bar off of a single percussive storm there from Nehu. And I think we're starting to see a little bit more insight as to where that Bancroft's damage is really going to stem. And, well, if Nehu can keep making connections like that, Pagan's going to have a really tough time trying to play any sort of initiation factor here on that Circuit early on.
Kind of the difference in playstyle you see with these Circuits when you flex them between the support and the jungle is these jungle ones, they're very high aggro. They want to get that early damage off, try and get that quick escalation. They play almost very finicky, very jumpy. You always want to be going for it, but sometimes when we see these more support-style Circuits, like taking, for example, I don't know, maybe Wrong You, typically see them playing very patient, sitting inside of jungle corridors, sitting inside of the lane even, trying to get these ganks. It's always interesting seeing the different playstyle once you flip a god to a different role.
Well, for Pagan, I probably don't anticipate a whole ton of action until he gets that Pridwin online. It's been such a popularized build as of late for Circuits to go from that Jotuns directly into the Pridwin just to maximize their cooldown reduction. Wow. Oh, he's going to have to maximize his escape potential here using that Lord of the Afterlife one more time.
Uses it early. Heroic Leap out of Relentless One to get himself out of danger. Pagon finds Nehu with an ultimate, trying to utilize his own ult just to get some CC immunity. Will catch Nehu with the last breath. Relentless One is in the sky, and as soon as he comes crashing down, it's an extra kill for Oath. Using that early ultimate still ends up paying dividends for him.
And don't get me wrong, Pagan is certainly a standout player in his own right, but starting to see more and more why Sharks wanted this Ares over anything else, because so far, these chains and those cripples have been playing their part here in terms of controlling Pagan and exactly what it is that he's able to do in terms of his initiations. Nehu about to get caught out, and instead, it's just a complete 180 there for Sharks and Nehu as Pagan forced into the last breath, and not only that, but forced now into a 3-level gap between himself and Oath.
Pretty much everybody is negatively impacted by these chains on the side of Sturdy Artisans. The only one who's kind of as obviously chains with the extra damage and the slow, it's still going to be a bother to Moswell, but with no actual movement in his kit, that those chains aren't going to shut him down any more or less than they would have before. Really going to see a lot of suffering from Pagan most of all, just because of the double mobility that he has with that Circuit. Even Griff, if he can't get a Bifrost off, could spell death for him. He'll have to use those beats if he wants to make it through there. So far, the early game is dictated by the pacing of Sleekness, with Sharks being hyperactive, I should say, with this Ares.
And it seems as though that aggressive build pathway that Relentless One had opted for might have actually caused him more issues than anything else. After he got picked initially, looking for a blue buff invade on his own, seems to be all the gap closure that Chronic needed in order to buy himself enough time to get his resources online, largely just looking at the sovereignty that Chronic has opted for really early on here. And not only that, but it definitely takes away some of the pressure from Sharks here also, because Sharks isn't going to have to necessarily worry about needing to rush physical protections outright. Granted, I know that he's gone into some as is, but it's a little bit more open-ended, although I'd imagine Sharks just trying to play into the Ares passive here and probably going to pick up an aura item in response.
Sleekness does grab the Pyromancer, and Artisans tried to answer with a Fury of their own, but instead they'll spot Chronic in the jungle. He's going to get picked up by the Whirlwind and thrown in 3, but Nehu has already taken one off the board. Griff is out. Moswell, the next on the chopping block for Oath, as he manages to pick him up with a couple more basics, and Ionic now running from Sharks, and, well, Sharks just a little bit of a mistime with that ultimate, and doesn't manage to find him, but opens the door for the Gold Fury.
The classic zoning ult, as I like to define it there for Sharks in the mid lane, it might have looked like a miss on Ionic, but the job was still done.
It's a mind game for him.
It is entirely mind games. Not only that, Ionic might have made his escape, but everybody from Sleekness just takes their time with collapsing on the Gold Fury. There's no one from Sturdy Artisans to really contest because they couldn't even make it past Sharks in the first place. Granted, I think it was only Yannick who was really in position to possibly look backwards, but even then, at 30-40% HP on a Shing 10 on your lonesome, you're better off just sacrificing some of these early game objectives. However, when a 5K gold lead is breaking out before the 13-minute mark, you're definitely going to feel that.
And this 4,000 or 5,000 gold lead, my apologies, that has already exploded for Sleekness just 12 minutes in. Some of our earlier EU sets we are seeing, 1.5, maybe 2,000 gold leads by 15 to 20 minutes. This is the glory of North America, as these guys love scrapping early, and because of it, we tend to see a lot of fluctuations, or if it's just more of a one-sided affair like this one is, a lot of quick escalation in gold leads. 4,500 to their name for Sleekness, as they start pulling ahead of the Sturdy Artisans, not just in kills, but in that golden XP.
The problem now for Sturdy Artisans is that they don't really have anyone. Well, hold that thought, because Moswell's just getting chopped.
Oh, Moswell, he gets some healing back with that ultimate, but not nearly enough. Oath is able to take him down. Relentless One rotates over, and Pagon goes in with the ultimate Thunder Crash from Nehu in a response to the Whirlwind. Griff gets caught in the midst and has to use the Bifrost to get away, but Sharks is left in the middle of everybody, throws out the chains to try and push them away, and with the flames he'll be able to do enough to help out Oath. Even Pagon is falling low. He's one hit away, but nobody is able to close that gap just yet. Maybe Sharks can with the blink. No.
Pagan also expending his own blink in the process, wanted to make sure that he got out as quickly as possible with that ultimate collapse there in the mid lane. And again, it goes right back to that conversation I just started bringing up. Nehu is an immediate threat right now on the map, and he's seemingly just getting to do whatever he wants with this Raijin burst damage. And despite the fact that Serket has natural anti-heal built into her kit, it seems as though the sustain between that Bancrofts, the Typhon's Fang, that little bit of penetration being added on top of it all as well. And that's enough crits for Doom-Man, bro.
Yeah, that's 3-4 crits. Make that 4 in that exchange, and he has how much percent crit? Like basically nothing.
33%.
We'll call it basically nothing at this point. Now, a lot of crit built up, and 4 big crits in the middle of it all will push Pagon away from Dude-Man, standing his ground. We saw him go at the escape, and well, at that point he realized there's nothing I can do but fight, and well, put up a fight he did. Pagon felt the burn.
Doom-Man Bro does lose his purification beads, though, in the process, so Griff could definitely start looking towards playing a little bit more aggressively around this Heimdallr ultimate. If he's able to isolate Doom-Man Bro and create some pressure from the dual lane via solo pick, that could be huge.
Uh-oh, Pagon with no ult, no beads. He gets yanked back in. Chains is more than enough with the help of Nehu to take him down. Nehu now going with a second lifesteal item, not just the Bancross, but the Typhon's Fang, and working towards Obsidian Shard. A lot of damage output for him. Ionic picks up 2 with the Whirlwind, and they're more than happy taking that trade, getting his ultimate, and maybe even getting his life in the process as Oath dives the Tier 1 tower and hits him with the sickle.
Excellent trading off there from Sleekness with the T1 focus, and Nehu takes the first couple of shots, no problem, and at level 15 apiece for this mid-jungle, that is so much pressure for Moswell to try and cut through on this Morgan Le Fay, Pagan especially. I know he only has 2 deaths to his name, but it just feels as though he has been non-existent on this map. The Ares more than accomplishing his mission, despite all this cooldown reduction in favor of Pagan. What's the point of a Death Bane if it's never usable unless you expend your purification beads?
Taco, to my eyes to see me, is that an Emperor's Armor second item coming from Sharks right now?
Yes.
When's the last time that we saw an Emperor's this early in a build?
Well, it depends. How often you been playing rank?
I can answer that question. Very, very minimal.
That's fair enough. I think that Emperor's has been in a really interesting spot lately, and I was starting to wonder when it would start to make a little bit more of a surfacing around the competitive area. I don't know if we'll really be seeing this at the SPL level, so to say, but I think Sharks' sole purpose on this minimap right now for Sleekness is to slow down the objective burn for his teammates when diving, because they have a full all-or-nothing composition. This is the total dive composition. I mean, even look at the way that Nehu leaped into Ionic underneath that T1 tower. A lot of that being made possible because of the fact that Sharks is just helping to create a lot of this space off of the Ares. And when you're playing Raijin, if you're not getting the Thunder Crash in, you're probably not going to be having a great time.
And a Cursed Ankh to boot for this support as Sharks goes back to pick up his second relic, trying to answer to some of the healing that Moswell can get back from his own ultimate, some of the healing and lifesteal that Relentless One can provide, and even that Griff, if he so chooses to pick up some extra lifesteal. So trying to answer back to some of this shutdown 4, and we see immediately Sleekness turning their sights over towards the Fury as Oni Fury has spawned in, and it looks to be the primary target for it. They're already burning it down, and there's really no answer here from the Artisans. Ionic trying to walk through as well as Relentless One, but Sleekness pull off.
G-Man Bro, though, has lost about half his HP, but Chronic, he's going to manage to isolate Relentless One on the backside. Nice Dark Portal for the silence, and it's a full-on team fight.
Sharks goes in with the ultimate, not going to pull anybody in. Ionic's going to do his best to save his teammates, but it's only going to be enough to take down Dude Man, and he himself may fall in the process, running as fast as he can, but his leaps are both down, and Oath is just walking right at him, and thanks to that passive, he'll make sure to haste his way on over and take down the support.
So unfortunate for Ionic. He just had no cooldowns left over. Relentless One with the blink in and just shredded on the backside.
The drop kick got stopped instantly. Griff's able to return and get a double kill against him, and that makes it a 3-for-3 trade. But Nehu is still fairly healthy with this Raijin, and enough lifesteal means that he could go back for a fight, but instead he'll let the last two members of the Artisans live.
On the bright side, though, for sturdy Artisans, they didn't lose the Oni Fury in the process. They made sure to show face and were even able to establish a few picks. However, despite killing D-Membro, Sharks, and Chronic, the two targets at large are the two members that remain standing. Oath and Nehu are really the ones that sturdy Artisans have to be prioritizing, but it's just so tough to actually focus out this Osiris and Raijin because the return damage is just so overwhelming right now, especially with the level gaps that are being factored in here and the itemization advantages that Sleekness have for their mid-jungle. It's not that Moswell and Pagan are useless by any means, it's just that when you're this far behind against a comp that has so many disengage options against what you've drafted for, it just gets incredibly difficult, I think, especially for Pagan here to really facilitate anything.
It's just kind of like, how do you get into this team at this point? I mean, Sharks is playing at the forefront of every single fight side by side with Chronic, so Pagan has no option to get to that back line, and usually by the time he does, he's already well under half health as Nehu has gone for back to base and picked up a Soul Reaver. So now with Obsidian Shard and Soul Reaver picked up, Nehu got a lot of power up into his build, lacking a little bit of flat pen, mostly just that percentage pin picked up so far, and that Conduit Gem can still be upgraded. But all the while, the sturdy Artisans, after evening out that last fight, they sneak on over and take the Oni Fury away from Sleekness.
Would consider this a big win for sturdy Artisans were it not for the fact that the goal lead is still about 4,000 in Sleekness's favor, and if anything, those Oni Fury waves I don't think are going to be as beneficial as a Prime Fury or even a Gold Fury would have been for the sturdy Artisans, because what they're really needing most here, J-Mac, is just something to start eating into the gaps that have really built up here for the itemization especially. And I like what Griff is doing right now on the Heimdall. Seems as though he's trying to work his way into a dominance, and maybe once he gets that online, there'll be a little bit more damage there to apply against the front line.
Relentless looking at Sharks, and Oath gets zoned away by Moswell's Sigil. Relentless gets looked at that one more time, and Sharks throws a couple chains out. Relentless down about a quarter health. Nehu has to use the Thunder Crash to get out of the winds of Shamash, and Pagan now maybe looking to go on the hunt, but he's hitting level 15, second lowest on his team, and barely at the same level as some of the members on the other team for Sleekness. He's down 4 levels in the jungle right now.
But again, it takes Sleekness all of 2 seconds to go and clear these Oni Fury waves. It's more so an annoyance factor, I think, for Sleekness over everything else, because the Oni Fury would have certainly helped funnel into an even bigger goal lead here for them. But the most important aspect to remember is just the fact that as long as there's no one to really touch Nehu in the back line, Nehu is just going to continue raining terror on the sturdy Artisans front line. He's going to be shredding through the carries as well. And D-Man Bro, he's got 2 stacks now on the Rage and a win to even finish off. And it seems as if Sleekness, they just want the Spire Giant.
Relentless used his leap in lane, and that was a call to maybe start this Fire Giant. Immediately, Pagan blinks into the backline trying to find Nehu. Sharks. It'll pull only Ionic in with the ultimate, but he gets one with the Dark Portal thanks to the help of his carry. 2 of them get tossed back by the Whirlwind, but they don't really care about that. It's a double kill for Dude Man and still hunting for more. Pagan has to use the leap to get away.
There is just so much damage here for Sleekness, whether it's Dude Man Bro, whether it's Nehu. And Griff, he just simply wasn't in the area. And I don't think that that's any fault of Griff. It seemed as though he had already communicated to his team, hey, I've got to back him by. I've got this dominance online. Just try to hang in there until I return. But I think that was just a heads-up play from Sleekness to call to pull that Fire Giant is the primary reason why the Sturdy Artisans couldn't just wait for their Hunter to return. They had to act then and now. Otherwise, likely would have just been a Sleekness taking the Fire Giant for free.
Right now, Ioniq's in this really compromising position as this Xingqian is. Anytime that Shark goes in with the ultimate, you have one of two choices. Either you use your ultimate, so you have CC immunity and get pulled in, but now you potentially waste it, or you don't, and you pray that you don't die immediately off the pull. Like Griff is dying to Nehu's damage. He has to use the Bifrost to go away, and the Fire Giant gets burned down so quickly. Sleekness able to get a nice little pick, and maybe even more. Relentless one jumps away. Chronic looking for the dive will only find Ioniq and Pagon, and well, that's all that they need. Ioniq gets knocked up and knocked down to the grave. 1 kill on the board for Sleekness.
Ioniq, I think, being compromised by that on Keeley. That Oath is picked up here on the Osiris to silence just enough time for the absolute surrounding to take place against this Xingqian, and now with Fire Giant in tow and a fully stacked Rage here for Doomman Bro after that last team fight. This Izanami autos are already shredding through the likes of the Gilgamesh. Only Pagan currently has that Spectral armor online, and even with the Spectral, I'm not sold at how beneficial this item really is just yet, given the fact that Pagan is still 3 levels behind Doomman Bro in general.
Yeah, being this far down and having to be forced more in towards this bruiser hybrid style build, I would even argue closer to a tank style build out of Pagon, really only getting that Jotun's Wrath for that 20% CDR available to him. Gives him a little bit of power and a little bit of that flat pin, but at this point it's mostly just going off those base values and the true damage that Pagon can provide. But again, we saw highlight in that last fight, the biggest problem for Pagon is just getting to that backline. The second he dives on Nehu, Nehu's able to spread her out and get back to the safety of his team.
It needed to start in the very beginning.
Oh no, Moswell.
Moswell, he's not going to be able to join for the base defenses. Oath and Chronic spot out the Morgan Le Fay, who's just looking to establish some farm, probably looking to try and finish off an item before it was too late, but now it is too late for the Sturdy Artisans, and this left Phoenix is under siege.
Sharks going for the ult, only grabs Ioniq, and Ioniq's able to throw 2, make that 3 actually away with the Whirlwind into the backline. Dives, Oath and Chronic looking for a kill, but they can't find any of the damage. Instead, they'll set their sights back towards the Phoenix, drop that one down quickly, and make a hasty retreat.
A lot of gold to back him by with, though. The lowest amount being 1,200 and climbing there for Doomman Bro, but that's more than enough to finish off his last item, whether it's going to be the Atlantis Bow. I have a suspecting hunch it's going to be for the Silver Branch for this Izanami, given that her Sickle Strike provides her with that, I believe, right around 70% enhanced attack speed once it's fully maxed out. And so all of these factors in mind, right now it's looking like Sturdy Artisans probably just disgusting where they went wrong in the compositions, because what I was trying to mention is that it had to start early on here for Sturdy Artisans, where they needed to punish this Ares. They needed to kill Sharks and force this Ares into not being able to kind of play this aggressive sort of style that we've been seeing from Sharks all game long.
Well, Doomman does go back and pick up the Silver Branch, and immediately we already see 26 stacks, and anytime he gets that crit, bump it up another 7 stacks, and that's not even counting the fact that he has the stem to give him that 75% basic attack speed that Doug was so gracious enough to show us earlier. Ult for Oath and Pagon. Pagon just using his defensively. Nice Cobra's Kiss will keep them away for the time being, and they're not willing to dive this Phoenix just yet. Instead, they're happy taking that ultimate away from Pagon and maybe looking to pick up Chronic in the process. A nice blink and a drop kick will set up for a potential kill for the Artisans.
Yeah, but Sleekness, they could care less. They'll sacrifice their King Arthur all day long. It means getting the Phoenix in mid uncontested. Nehu, however, in a little bit more trouble here. Drop kicked into the wall, and Relentless One finally shutting down this Raijin. A huge kill bounty, but at what cost as Doomman Bro takes down the Gilgamesh and Ioniq?
I hope you have your beads, Pagon, and the answer to that is he did, but he did not elect to use them. Instead, it's going to be Doomman Bro picking up a double and 1 kill for Oath, maybe being able to pick up a 3rd one here. Griff tries to go through the Bifrost, but walks right into a crit from Doomman, and that's an unofficial triple for the Hunter and a double for the Oath. Make that a full house for the boys of Sleekness as they look to close out Game 1.
Griff was dead there regardless. His only hope was to try and find a lucky auto attack that could kill Doomman Bro in the process, but even if he had killed this Izanami in the mid lane, I feel as though the last two standing members there being Oath and the Ares would have definitely been more than enough damage to help bring down that Titan. Two different ways of fire minions. This was just one that got away early on there from the sturdy Artisans.
Yeah, luck was not in his favor walking through that Bifrost, and just unfortunate he walks right into a 500+ crit from Dude Man, bro, who's able to pick up 3 in that last fight. Oath picking up a double kill of his own, and pretty much from minute 1, it looked like it was all in Sleekness' favor as far as the pacing of it goes. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with the desk.
Not going to be an easy 2-game set for the Sturdy Artisans, not with the way that Sleekness played there in Game 1. They push us all 3, 2 games played, technically, no matter what. But not a 2-0 here for either team. These players are playing on the best gear. Well, the pro players are playing on the best gear around in the Alienwares. You at home, though, you need a nice mouse pad to kind of round things out all together. And it is furnished, of course, by our friends over at Insight Apparel Company. And they are also putting on some great. This is technically not a peripheral. I'll call it an accessory, but it's available to you at shop.smiteproleague.com. Is it a peripheral? I
I'd
guess
say
it
so.
is. It houses your peripherals if you're using a nice Alienware mouse. You want it on a nice high-quality mouse pad, and it comes in 4 different sizes, all available at shop.smiteproleague.com. All right, production, I need you to go to Mifflin's camera really quick right now. Miff, just stare in. All right, now come back to me. My goodness, I'm a oh, I did it upside down. This is horrible. I'm a magician.
Bring it back to me. Bring it back to me.
Yeah, but I already flipped it. Now back to me. And we got a mouse pad here for you. Go ahead, play God. The mouse pad actually is pretty sweet. Nice and big. And so if you're playing Smite or you're playing any other FPS-style game, this is the mouse pad for you. So shop.smiteproleague.com is where you want to go for that one. Miff, you can talk to me a little bit about what happened here in Game 1. Because we all figured that the Sturdy Artisans were going to kind of run away with this. We didn't know how Sharks was going to look as he was subbing in for Oceans. And this is a Sleekness team that apparently came to play, and they did not want to go out quietly after a Game 1 DQ.
Here's the thing. Luckily, it never really came down to Sharks. It didn't really matter how well he played because we had a couple of players that were just going above and beyond the Call of Duty. And if anyone watched that match, I think they know who exactly I'm talking about. It was Oath and Nehu who two-handedly, single-handedly, but both of them with one hand, so 2 total hands,
were
able to run that game.
Egyptian God card style thing, like you had 2 of the arms of the Egyptian God card. No, it's Yu-Gi-Oh, man.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry.
I don't even think you had to watch or play Yu-Gi-Oh to understand that one. But I think the point still stands, and I think you're correct there, where both of the arms of the Egyptian God card were Oath and Nehu this game. And this is what we were concerned about.
Is it just 2 hands? There's more, surely.
No, there's more to it.
Oh, you're talking about Exodia.
Yeah, you're right. I did that wrong. I did that wrong. Yes, you're right. Exodia is the one I'm looking for here. Yes, but the parts of Exodia were Oath and Nehu here this game. The Raijin, it was what we were concerned about, especially with the scaling aspect of both Raijin and this Izanami. If we didn't see kind of that lopsided fighting earlier on, Sleekness was always going to be feeling pretty good as the game went on. Dude, man, bro, and the Iza went 5-1, Nehu went 5-1, Oath had 10 freaking kills this game. I mean, it was near unstoppable Sleekness in Game 1. There were some kills rolling through from the Sturdy Artisans, didn't hand it over for free. But now you move on to Game 3 here, Miff, after being gifted a Game 1. And now it does matter. You have to lock down. You have to win this one if you're the Sturdy Artisans. It's kind of, I think, tough to turn around after games like that because, or maybe it's easy though, Miff. Maybe if you just feel like you got out-drafted, maybe a couple picks go the other way and the Sturdy Artisans are feeling good. So maybe it is easy to turn around after a game 2 loss. What do you think?
Man, you really flipped yourself on that. Yeah,
I can convince myself in mid-argument, right?
I'd say they could very easily turn around. These guys are very used to winning and very used to losing as well. So Sturdy Artisans, no stranger to either one of these outcomes, certainly have the bounce-back potential. And I think you're right to say P's and B's likely going to be very different here.
Yeah, just like I said the first time, and I never flip-flopped, it's going to be easy
time
for the Sturdy Artisans to turn this one around, especially in picks and bans for Game 3. I'm not going to mess it up this time. Game 3, as we are tied up at 1 after a Game 1 DQ for Sleekness. Sturdy Artisans in that first pick spot. I don't imagine you're giving Raijin and Izanami over to Sleekness here. I think taking Osiris away is probably the easiest first ban of your life after he put up 10 kills on you there in Game 1. A repeated soul ban here from Sleekness. Might be player-specific for Sturdy Artisans. Soul saw a huge increase in play early on in Season 8. Has kind of hung around, but the sort of decreased here as of late.
Yeah, generally it's just a couple of players acting as hangouts, just going towards that soul pick. Surprised that we haven't seen Barracuda lock it in a little while. Hurrywin still kind of likes that pick, and it seems like the SCC very much still likes that pick across the board. But I like what the Artisans did. They got rid of Osiris, and they thought to themselves, what god fills the exact same role as Osiris? Well, it's probably the Erlang Shen, so they immediately targeted that one as well.
And so Erlang Shen will also take a seat. That left open Raijin, who is one of the Exodia pieces for Sleekness in Game 1.
Which one?
The left arm of Exodia is the one I'm going to roll with here.
Nice.
And Raijin gets picked first overall for the Sturdy Artisans, and I think that's strong, kind of a pseudo-pick/ban. Sleekness are not going to let Morgan Le Fay potentially fall down to the 10th and final pick here in this one. Morgan Le Fay gets picked technically second overall, but first here for Sleekness. And then Terra as well, who's just been hanging around in the support meta here as of late. A handful of supports, especially at the SPL level, can play it better than others. But it feels like a very good kind of overall pick regardless.
Yeah, she's a great catch-all, has good initiation tools, has great disengage, decent sustain, as well as damage output. I mean, we saw what Jake did recently, just legitimately doing 80% of someone's HP bar inside of their Tier 2 tower, was not rewarded with a kill, but actually
that was sad,
lost
wasn't
his
it?
own life. Yeah, Jake, he laughed it off, so I'm sure he's not feeling too bad about it.
Yeah. Oh, I thought there was more. No.
Oh, you want? I can keep going. I just thought
No, I just
that
figured
maybe
do it. No, we'll jump onto this Ratatosker train now because
okay.
Ratatosker also a pick that started to rise in the ranks just a little bit, not at the forefront of the meta, but when we see this, if I'm remembering correctly, more glass cannon-y than not. I feel like players really like to play this Ratatosker. I'm going to dunk in and I'm going to delete you before you have anything to say about it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it is fun to watch nonetheless.
Yeah, the tactical nuke Ratatosker with the hidden blade as well as the Heartseeker means that he's one of the few gods with this semi-global ultimate that can very consistently utilize the hidden blade. I mean, he goes up, he gets that passive proc on him, lands on somebody and removes the entirety of their HP bar. And when you're up against something like Morgan Le Fay, who is incredibly immobile, pretty easy for Ratatosker to find that ultimate. When you're up against something like Camazotz, you want to shut him down instantly before he's able to use Battle to Hell. Ratatosker can do that as well. Sun Wukong, though, not so much. He's pretty safe and tanky. And
We
has,
have
like,
not
2
seen
lives.
Sun Wukong, like, at all. Sun
Ducky
Wukong
sometimes.
I mean, yeah. so maybe once or twice a week in the SPL level, maybe we see Sun Wukong. At the SCC level, twice all phase long. Has not won yet. Very good at escaping and sustaining and staying alive. Can do. We've seen Sun Wukong just like take games over though. So I don't think that's all that out of the question here. Artemis is somehow the 10th and final pick here. Something about these top picks falling all the way down in the draft boards. Loki picked in here with a Sobek and a Ratatosker over on the other side. So Ratatosker or Sobek or Loki, I guess, is going to have to be somewhere in the jungle or the solo lane. Sobek could be support, Rat could be solo, Loki could be solo. What do you make of that, Myth?
I think it's very likely we see Loki inside of the jungle, doesn't really utilize the solo or support role very well. So we can
I don't think so
mark one off the board. Sobek and Ratatosker have flex potential between both support and solo.
Yeah.
If I had my choice, I'd put Ratatosker in solo, I'd put Sobek in support,
Yeah,
but
I think that makes
J-Mac
sense.
cannot contain himself and has been whispering in our ears this entire time, Rat support. So I guess I'm going to put that out there for the world. J-Mac Tucker, new caster to the team here, thinks it's going to be Rat support.
You're going to put something on this one, Myth, or are you just going to let the camera? You're just going to stare into the
I
camera.
can't do it.
You're going to stare into the camera and let the camera speak for itself. Will it be Ratatosker support here in an all-important Game 3? Or we land over in the solo lane. Game number 3, Sturdy Artisans and Sleekness. J-Mac, where does this rat land?
Well, let's find out. Hopefully when it goes away, and I'm going to be let down, very heavily disappointed, and my life is now a tragedy. And I'm very sad that this Ratatosker is not support, but it will at least be going into the solo lane, and Mazwal will be taking Loki for jungle. So we're having a bit of a role swap here at Taco for game number 2. Mazwal pulling out of the mid lane, and Pagon going back towards the mid lane this time, going to be piloting Raijin in this third game.
And Raijin, again, I think one of the more heavily contested mid lane picks and will likely continue to be as long as he's able to offer as much burst damage as he does. But with Pagan and Mazwal having done this, switcheroo, good old-fashioned switcheroo between jungle and mid, it's basically become their trademark at this point.
Yeah, I think almost every set in the last 3 weeks now that we've seen, these two have flexed between these two roles. I think if they are on like the game-winning set or a game-winning game for it, they do that swap to where Pagon goes back. But that's the benefit of having these two players having that level of flexibility. Is you never know what you're going to go up against game to game.
Sharing is caring, and
unless it's my farm, don't share my farm.
That's fair enough, and that's probably how Pagan's going to treat Mazwal for the duration of this game, given that, I think it's interesting that the two roles they're swapping between are I would say unanimously considered to be the best and worst roles in the match, because jungle just a little bit more problematic, I would say, in Season 8 for a lot of junglers in general. Just feels hard to have an impact. You almost feel like a backup support or like a budget support in a sense, but that's where Mazwal comes into play with the Loki. I think that the Assassinate especially is just going to be a nice little finishing touch here when combined with the Raijin burst damage.
Relentless One really struggling to get that lane pressure over the Sun Wukong. Chronic is doing a good job keeping him under that tower, and this is a 4-man rotation to this mid side of the map. Now, 2 of them will divert back over towards the Oracle Harpies. They'll leave them alone as the dual lane rotates back over, but I mean, we are less than 2 minutes in, and we're already seeing both support and Hunter start making their way towards mid. Sleekness might want to be a little careful.
Important to note, though, the Relentless One on this Ratatosker in the solo lane, he's got early rotation capabilities. His Oath trying to punish Moswell for stripping away some of his back camps, but it's going to be Moswell with a quick getaway. Relentless One backing him up for the time being, but seems as though Chronic and Oath are still out for blood.
Oath hunting for one of them. Relentless is going to be the one hit by the Vampire Bats. The Screech is good, and Chronic with the Tiger form will be enough to take him down. First blood goes the way of Sleekness.
And that's a huge punish up against the likes of a Ratatosker solo, because not only does Relentless One lose his life, but he doesn't have teleport available. He opted for Blink earlier on, so now his blue buff could potentially be compromised here. Moswell might try to risk sticking around for a steal opportunity, but nice confirmation there from Chronic on the cudgel, and now Moswell potentially dead.
But Chronic has not counted for the fact that Relentless One has respawned and was able to make his way back over. So, yeah, they get the blue buff, but they end up losing now 2 in the process as Griff and Ionic go aggressive towards dual lane, and it might even be a third. Oath is low on mana. Relentless One trying to close the gap, and the spin will be enough. Relentless One says, you know what? That first blood was cool, but what if I pick up a couple of my own?
That is painful, though, for Sleekness, because they did everything right up until they didn't, and that was just Chronic and Oath. They probably would have been fine to walk away with the blue buff. Want to make a special note of the fact that even though it was highlighted with showing the icon, it was actually in favor of Sleekness there, who were able to confirm that blue buff for their own. So it'll be important to kind of keep track of the timers here on this solo side of the map. Relentless One, though, make sure to return the favor in kind. He strips away the blue buff there from Chronic, and now it's basically all but stabilized here. In fact, I would even say Relentless One came out on top.
He needed that blue buff, however, because he expended all of his mana trying to steal that one away and closing the gap for those 2 kills. But, hey, that's 2 kills. You lose your speed buff, you steal theirs in response, and you get a couple kills to boot with it. Relentless One can't be too upset about the outcome of that. I guess maybe dying is always upsetting, but when you get a nice return like that, probably not too bad for him.
It would have been awful for Relentless One had he not been able to find an immediate double kill for himself on the return.
Ouch.
Pagan, on the other hand, he is just going to get burned down, shredded here in the mid lane.
That Dragonflight just a little too potent. Mark that with the Sigil to boot alongside it, and then Oath's damage coming from this Camazotz makes for quick work against Pagan. Didn't even have an opportunity to use his ultimate to either fear them away or maybe get a little bit of just extra damage before falling down. So 1 kill on the board now for the mid laner, for Neu.
On the bright side, though, for sturdy Artisans, their dual lane has continued to prosper. Both Ionic and Griff sitting at level 5, but hold that thought, because Oath coming in right behind them could be a power play opportunity here for Sleekness.
Shark standing inside the walls just to make sure you can cut off one path. Oath trying to close the distance, but Ionic just a little too slippery. Manages to get back to the safety of his side of the map, and no further aggression comes from Sleekness as they all back away.
Oath needed that Vampiric Bats to connect, I think, to apply the slow there if he wanted to get the full benefits of actually managing to land the Vampiric Screech at the beginning. But trade out of his Blink, and Ionic still not being killed in the process just means that all the attention likely going to shift back towards this mid-jungle solo area of the map here. And Moswell actually benefiting from that rotation out of Oath, because he's just been farming this entire time. So despite the fact that Oath has managed to be a part of 2 kills now, those 2 assists aren't going to make up for that level disadvantage.
Pagan will get his red buff thanks to the help of Ionic rotating over just to get a little bit of extra damage. And Moswell now with a slight level lead over Oath because of the death that he took earlier on off that early kill and invasion that went south after the kill as far as it goes for it. So starting to fall just a little bit far behind in the golden experience department, though they are sitting nice and even here as far as their builds go. Jotun's Wrath for both of them, but it's going to be a Bumba's Dagger on the side of Moswell, where Oath has gone for that standard Mannequin Scepter we've been seeing so much out of these Kama jungles.
An early Chronos pendant online, though, for Nehu, so it seems as though Nehu just wants to try and spam maybe that knock-up fear combination that we see so often out of the Morgan Le Fay. A nice Draugr pickup, though, for sturdy Artisans, so some objective mitigations going to now be added to the map here. And that'll just be some food for thought, I think, in terms of Sleekness when they want to look for tower dives.
Ionic still pushed up very highly in this left side lane. Typically, this is the time of the game where we see the supports rotate out, but instead, they're going to be left to their own devices in the duo lane, and an ult combo from Pagon and Moswell will make quick work of Nehu. Assassinate sets up for some Taiko Drum damage and the kill.
Oath just not in the area to really try and help out with finding a response kill. Likely would have been able to kill Pagan, despite the fact that Pagan got those Taiko Drums out. Bad of hell, more than enough damage, I think, at this point in the game to help bring down the likes of this Raijin. And Moswell, well, without his Assassinate for the time being, probably just going to go right back to power farming.
Chronic and Relentless will duke it out for a little bit, but Relentless One is nice and healthy. This Tainted Steel and Tier 1 Cudgel provides him a little bit of extra HP, but Chronic is willing to dive under the tower. Relentless use the dart to get away. Double ult out of both of them, but Blink is online for Relentless One. He'll walk away. Takes the damage from the bats and the Screech, but Relentless One is A-OK. Chronic's clone will try and dive under the tower, while on the left side of the map, Ionic is in a little bit of danger of his own as it's a 3-man dive to try and stop this invade. Griff trying to fight back and almost does so. Jukes away from the wall, but can't juke out the sigil. Nehu is able to capitalize and get a kill.
Unfortunate there for Griff that he didn't have enough left
Yeah,
over
goodbye.
to find the final kill here for Pagan.
And goodbye.
He's able to collect next to Moswell, so they lose out on their Hunter on the opposite side of the map, but when you're able to pick up 2 kills on the other end, I don't think that Sturdy Artisans have any sort of complaints about losing Griff in the process.
Pagon gonna fight out with Nehu, and he's got the help of Moswell, but Moswell is fairly low in mana and doesn't look like he wants to continue the fight. Instead, Nehu uses the ultimate, trying to get some extra damage back, but Pagon and Moswell are not deterred. They'll go back to stripping away some of the jungle and go back to their respective sides of the map shortly afterward. Moswell hasn't been back to base in a little while, so he's got some gold saved up, about 2K in pocket at the moment.
This is actually huge, though, for Moswell. He's got about a 2-level lead now over Oath, and not only that, but Relentless One, again, important to make note of the fact that despite having that earlier death, the double kill return, once he came back to that solo lane, now all of this invade pressure that's been taking place in favor of Sturdy Artisans on that solo side of the map, and it just seems as though Sleekness, they're not able to respond fast enough with pressure out of duo that it doesn't really force the attention of Sturdy Artisans to want to come over to that side of the map. If the compromise is going to be giving up only 1 member and trading out for 1 to 3 more, well, then that's just tough luck for Griff and Ionic. I mean, hold out best you can, but at least they're generating pressure, so much so in the solo and mid jungle territories that Oath, Nehu, soon enough, these little level disadvantages are really going to amount to something more on the gold here.
Griff gets caught in the mid, has to use his beads to get away from the sigil, but it's going to be too little, too late for him. Not able to get into the sky in time. Ionic is here with the lurking in the waters and buying time for Moswell to show up. Dude, man, taking a lot of damage, but Moswell has to assassinate away from the group of the 5. Pagon has shown up. He's trying to try to get some damage, but Oath able to blink away. Thunder crash in to close the gap, thrown right into the clutches of Pagon. The Raiju and a couple basics will be enough to take him down.
Nehu nearly able to peel for the Kamazots there on the backside. A smart move from Moswell to choose not to aggress with his ultimate. Instead, going to use that Assassinate to find his way to safety. Pagan, though, he's not over it just yet. Nehu going to get cleanly taken out here, and Relentless One had that through the Cosmos just in case, but T1 Tower now being looked at by the Sturdy Artisans.
Yeah, Pagon's not happy about what happened in Game 2. He says, okay, you know what, your Raijin was pretty good, you did some good damage, but let me show you what my Raijin can do, and sends a nice message back over to Nehu. Now 4-1 on this mid laner. Relentless just trying to get away as best he can, and fortunate for him, he will be able to make it out. No further chase from Chronic and Sharks to try and locate him. Instead, he and Moswell will team up to start clearing out this jungle. Both now hitting level 12.
And Moswell, once he gets his secondary relic online, undecided as to whether it might be the Blink, could be an Aegis. He could just be looking for outright survivability, I think, if he actually opts in for that Aegis. But the initiation process as well could be rather difficult to escape from, because you have Relentless One on this Ratatosker, and trying to run away from Ratatosker Loki might be one of those painful things that you could ever ask an Artemis to do, or even the Morgan Le Fay.
Oath will finally be able to take a back camp of his own, as Moswell has been pitching a tent on that right side jungle, making sure to strip as many camps away as he can. So finally for Oath, he'll get some farm, and some much needed farm, as he's sitting level 9 comparatively to level 12 that Moswell has been able to accumulate for himself. It's not very often that, especially in this phase 2 meta, that you do see the jungler at almost the same level as everyone else across the board on your team.
And a lot of this just stems from the fact that Oath, I again think he had the right idea. He was trying to play aggressive off of his mid laner, off of his solo laner, but unfortunately, those 3 kills that he was a part of, he didn't actually get any of the bounties for. Instead, he would oftentimes trade out his life in the process, which just made it all the easier for Moswell to slowly but surely amount this substantial lead now in the jungle. And again, a lot of that just coming off the back of just taking all of Sleekness's Harpies.
And you can see a massive deficit in the XP per minute category as far as things go. Nearly 680 for Relentless One right now. You look across the board at the Sun Wukong, and it's a little bit lower there for him, about 100 separating the two or more forward. So experience is definitely in favor of Sturdy Artisans for how much they're getting at the time. Oath wants to try and pick a fight in mid, but I think he picked a fight with the wrong team and the wrong number of players there, as there was 4 staring him down.
Oath nearly made it up into the bat out of hell in time, but at least he'll be able to hold on to that cooldown timer, and does respawn in about 20 seconds or so. It's just been so fast-paced here from Sturdy Artisans.
Nayu's safety factor is gone with that Dragonflight, and that'll be a nice quick kill on the mid laner. Chronic is looking for Pagon, but Pagon able to get away, throws the Raiju Percussive Storm combo right back at him, and Chronic is now the one in pain as he's sitting at half health. Relentless One will stun out him and the decoy to get it away, but now that Griff is rotated through, Chronic has nowhere to go but back to the fountain.
Griff's not even going to elect to use his Purification Beads. This Tusky from Doomman, bro, just not even considered a threat here. Yana going to force the Purification Beads out of the Artemis. Griff still has that Astral Barrage if he wants to use it, and he's looking for the snipes.
Looking for, but doesn't find it. Oath has respawned and has that bat out of hell already, looking for Pagon, but immediately going to turn away as Griff has walked to the wrong side of the jungle. He managed to pick up one, almost gets a second one against Dudeman, but not quite enough damage, and, well, he'll get stunned out in the process forward, and Relentless One adds a 4th kill to his column, now sitting 4-1 with his mid laner.
And that's so unfortunate for Oath, because it looked so promising at the start when he came back in off the respawn. However, Sturdy Artisans and the lead that they've been able to build leading up to this 14-minute mark now, J-Mac, it's just starting to... It's the trickle-down effect, essentially. The fact that Griff doesn't even opt to back off for a second, instead he goes even further into Sleekness's jungle, that alone should indicate just how far behind Sleekness is in terms of being able to match the overall damage output that Sturdy Artisans have been applying time and time again.
It's a 4,000 gold lead for the Sturdy Artisans here at 14 minutes, and they've got a little over double the kills that Sleekness have been able to pick up. And, well, as you can see across the board, 4 and 4. 4 for the mid, 4 for the solo lane. That's a lot of 4s in that statement. I'm kind of impressed I didn't fumble entirely on it, but 3 kills for Griff as well. Able to get a nice little spread of kill bounty across the board for just about every player on the board. Ionic able to get a few assists for himself, even Moswell picking up a couple kills on this Loki. Now allows them to start setting up towards this Gold Fury. You can see Ionic is going to drop a sentry to make sure that they can clear that out and instantly start it up.
And it's crazy to think that a lot of this lead that Sturdy Artisans have amounted already hasn't even come from objective play. This is the first time we're really starting to see any sort of contention over these global objectives.
Griff looking for some snipes on Oath and will find it. Needs the 3rd shot, not necessary as he takes down one, looks towards Dudeman, able to get one big shot on him. Relentless has to dash away, but that doesn't stop Ionic from walking forward. He'll pick up one. Nehu turns around with some damage to try and find another, but Dudeman managed to find Moswell all alone in the back, and Griff has been left by himself. Use the Aegis, and Pagon with the ultimate. Gonna push everybody away from Griff, who is falling so low. Chronic falls, and so does the rest of his squad. D aside for the Artisans.
I think Moswell may have just walked into an unknown Artemis trap there and not realizing where all those Transgressor's fates might actually be. Could have been hidden as well by the Camazot's pools that are on the ground. It's hard to say really, but an unfortunate loss of Moswell.
It's gonna be close.
But it's an easy takeaway here though for the Sturdy Artisans. There's no concerns. Griff, he was never gonna die to that. He had Ionic on the backside, but Sturdy Artisans just continue to take every single bit of possible farm for their own. And again, the leads that have been built up, this is certainly Sturdy Artisans trying to give a nice payback for game 2.
We're 16 minutes in, and Griff already has a fully stacked Rage and a Wind Demon now finished up to couple with that Iqbal. So lots of attack speed, but most importantly, lots of crit online for this ROM. Griff, well, if he wasn't already a big problem to deal with, now he's got the second crit item online. Yeah, you might need a little bit of extra defense and probably start looking towards those spectral armors. We saw, well, what was it? Moswell was the only one who picked it up last game for their team, or no, it was Pagon who picked it up last game for their team, but now that they have the crit on their side, Sleekness might need to answer in kind.
It's just too early on in the game, though, for Sleekness to be able to actually invest gold towards a spectral armor, because if you buy a spectral, sure, you're going to prevent a little bit of the crit damage, but at the same time, Sharks is level 10. I make that 11 now as he ticks over.
Starting up the Fire Giant was the Sturdy Artisans, but immediately they get pulled away as Sleekness is able to kind of strip their attention and divide it a little bit for themselves as we try and get back into the action for it. Chronic able to get up into the ultimate and get away for now, but he'll crash right back in looking for some damage. Does manage to find one. So many of them are so low, and the Raiju is spreading across the board and dealing so much damage back to them. Able to pick up a nice couple of kills here for Sleekness. And sorry about that. We are going to try and get back into the action for you here in a moment, but what a wild team fight to kind of start up right around this Fire Giant.
Yeah, I think we're all on a ride here, a bit of a journey with that last Fire Giant engagement, but between the slows out of the Raiju and Griff's Astral Barrage, it just seems as though there's just multiple damage points being applied here to Sleekness. Everybody's incredibly low, though. That's the primary takeaway from what we just saw.
Yeah, everybody falling very low in the health bars. You saw, what, maybe 3-4 people sitting at around 10% health at that point before we went ahead and pulled out from the action for it. And all just off a Fire Giant bait. They drop down the bracer right at their feet. They say, okay, let's see how many people we can bring in this fight. And, well, they brought the entire squad, all 10 players over here trying to battle it out by this objective.
I think there might actually have to be a little bit of a return to base period here for the Sturdy Artisans. I'm not sure that they were really healthy enough to stick around as long as they would have liked, but Griff, he's going to be able to find his double kill no problem and scratch that. It was really just Moswell that was incredibly low for the Sturdy Artisans. Thought that it might have been a couple of members there that had fallen a bit lower, but seems as though Ionic more than enough to be able to tank things up around this Fire Giant.
It's going to be a 4-for-1 trade off the tail end of that fight, only losing on their mid laner for all of that. And, well, when you get 4-for-1 and the Fire Giant is still there and everybody else is relatively healthy, besides for Moswell, but Moswell, it doesn't matter. He can go back to base and get back really quickly for it, so immediately we will see Sleekness head towards that Fire Giant, maybe be able to shred that one down.
But everything leading into this, the main takeaway that I have is the fact that Sturdy Artisans, I mean, obviously when you're the team that's starting to build a little bit of this advanced pressure on the map, you obviously just keep hitting the gas pedal. You're not going to suddenly break, but that was the issue, I think, for Sleekness. Instead of just trying to look for outright disengages, they kind of played into that aggression, and it only worked against them ultimately. And now I think that they're just in this circumstance, J-Mac, where, you know, they're about to lose the Fire Giant. They just lost a team fight leading into that. There's a lot of gold that the Sturdy Artisans are going to be able to expend for their carries. I mean, we already saw Griff, fully stacked Rage, has the crit online. There's not really any sort of leeway here for Sleekness to essentially try and buy time. Now they're going to have to try and depend on that base defense, and unfortunately for them, I just think that their front line may have fallen just a little too far behind at this point in time to be able to fully recover. It's going to honestly depend on Sleekness, maybe trying to set up some kind of jungle ambush, look for 1-2 members at best. If they can find a clean 4v2 or a 5v2 situation where they're able to swarm, get the kill, get out, then maybe they're going to be able to stabilize this game again in their favor. But right now, it just seems as though Pagan might be a little bit too far ahead, Moswell might be a little bit too far ahead, and the same problems over and over again, just Ratatosker, Astral Barrage, and then just a Loki assassinate to clean it all up.
Just a little too much aerial damage coming from this team, and it's hard to keep track of everybody. You have to juke out snipes from one guy, and then you have to worry about where Relentless One may be sneaking around the jungle. Apologies for the delay, but we are back into the game, and Sturdy Artisans a 22-8 kill lead, an 8,000 gold lead, and experience not looking so hot here for Sleekness. We see a few 3+ level disparities across the board. The only person on Sturdy Artisans who's behind is Griff, sitting 16 versus 17.
And I'm not even sure Sharks really counts as frontline at this point when you're only level 12. Oath, he's going to lose his purification beads. He might just lose his life. Relentless One is going to keep this chase going as long as possible, but he'll be satisfied with that forced bat out of hell. That takes away a lot of aggressive opportunities there for Sleekness. Not that Oath would want to use that bat out of hell all that aggressively, but on the off chance that Nehu and Doomembro were able to chip away at somebody's HP bar, now, well, guess what? That option, it's not available, and that just leaves Sleekness right back where they started, square one here, just trying to do what they can to push waves out. But Chronic, Moswell's not even going to bother. They're just going to let this Sunwoo come back to base because they just know it's simply not even worth their time.
It's almost a pity back at that point for him. You're like, you know what, dude? Just go ahead and head back. If you want a good status on what the condition of the game is, take a look at Oath's Transcendence. He's only sitting at 38 stacks despite it being the second item picked up. He has not had any time to really farm because, look, this is what Moswell's done all game to him. Go up. Hey, your back camps are up. I guess they're my back camps now. Takes those, now strips away the blue, and, well, what does Oath even have to farm? Because everybody on the Artisans is in his side of the map. They're in his jungle. Well, I guess maybe now it's their jungle just because of how much advantage they have over it. Oh, Nehu.
A little bit torn here. Nehu, though, incredibly low. Astral Barrage, not good for the time being, does manage to help pick off Moswell, but Griff will find Nehu at the end of that Aegis.
Pagon falls down. Chronic able to get the credit for it, and Griff stuck in the middle of 4. He's not going to make it out either. That's a 3-for-1 trade. They picked up Nehu, but lost all 3 of their carries. Now, it's only the front line left for Sturdy Artisans. Relentless is trotting down the mid lane, looking for Oath. Maybe able to find him thanks to a nice pluck from his support, able to grab him and hold him in place for just long enough.
Sleekness thought for a moment that they would actually have a chance to respond and look for a push down the mid lane. Instead, they're going to be met by the front line here in Relentless One. I don't think he wants to give up on Doomembro just yet, but that T2 tower is certainly putting in the work. Doomembro doesn't have any mana available, but with the help of Ionic, Sickle Strike has applied enough to anti-proc. At level 14 versus level 19, that one kind of writes itself. Relentless One gets another kill, 8-1 and 10 currently on the Ratatoskr solo.
Relentless One said, hey man, welcome to the SCC. We know you're a coach and all, but right now you're a player and you're going to feel the burn and feel the wrath of this Ratatoskr. Are they looking for another one? Maybe. Chronic is in the mid lane, 2 of them. They're still sticking by and able to hold out and keep their tier 1 tower alive. So despite the fact that Sleekness got a 3-1 trade to start it all out, they didn't get anything from it. They didn't get an objective. They didn't get a structure.
Well, they did buy some time, though. That was the main thing that I was talking about during that mini break, is that Sleekness just needed to try and utilize a numbers advantage. And fortunately for them, Sturdy Artisans may be a little overconfident on how tanky they actually were in that T2 tower siege, but it just seems as though Moswell, Pagan, Griff, they were all so split from the front line. I didn't even see Ionic in the presence of that T2 tower. Relentless One, he was chilling out by the backcourt beast, trying to play a distraction factor towards Doomembro and Oath, and as a result, Sturdy Artisans, they lose 3 of their carries in the process, and that's a big time waste, and essentially the Fire Giant lost here for Sturdy Artisans.
Yeah, losing not just the carries, but that buff on them as well, but now that that timer has expired, Fire Giant no longer on anybody from it, so everybody from the Artisans back to neutral as far as their buffs go. I say that, but they've got a few enhanced buffs of their own, and looking towards this tier 2 tower, they're all 3 tier 2 still standing on the map. Sharks will dash in aggressively to try and hold them out. Relentless in the sky looking for a dunk target. He'll be right on top of Nehu's head, and he'll take him down with the help of Moswell. Bat out of hell from Oath is doing some damage, but not nearly enough. Pagon picks up a quick double with the Taiko drums. Chronic low, and Chronic gonna be able to get out for the time being. The clone fell before he does, and Griff makes sure to seal the deal. 4 down for Sleekness.
And that might actually be enough here for Sturdy Artisans. The only Doomembro left standing. Sure, he's got the Caledonian board to his name, but I'm not sold that that's going to be enough to actually get a successful penta, or even a triple kill would probably be enough to save this game here for Sleekness.
Do they have the damage is the question. Ionic blinks into a trap, and Dude Man tries to cut him off, uses the Caledonian boar, but as you mentioned, that's not going to be nearly enough to help him out and save his life. Sharks' respawn but that Titan is starting to fall down. Sharks picks up one with the help of the damage from the Titan. Pagon has to Thunder Crash away, but now everybody from Sleekness has respawned. He may have just bought enough time to hold him out. Oath is hunting down Pagon. Will manage to find him, but snipes from Griff are able to turn it around and pay dividends for it. A triple kill off the bat. Moswell picks up one, but with everybody low on Artisans, they can't continue forward.
Chronic is now respawned, and thankfully, Chronic, being the solo laner, at least tanky enough to dissuade the likes of Sturdy Artisans from wanting to push any further. Nearly a game end there, but those couple of seconds ended up costing them more than they thought, as Griff, now trying to take on this 1v1 against Chronic, has opted to go into the Cloud, but I don't know if he's going to be able to actually box it out with these crits.
Oh, manages to find him. So Chronic catches a lazy back and takes the boxing match afterward, but not going to be able to take the boxing match against the now full health Moswell as he runs back in just to deal the killing blow to the solo laner and stagger those respawn timers one more time. Chronic now sitting for 50 seconds on the grayscale screen, but I'm not sure what was going through Relentless One's head to dash in at like 5% health against the Sun Wukong.
He was hoping for a little bit of sustain and just maybe over-gauged how much damage Griff was actually going to have with his current build. And, well, for the most part, Sleekness just one more time continue to buy themselves a little bit more time. These staggered back timers is actually going to provoke Sleekness into wanting to see if they can take this fire time for themselves. And if they get away with this, could be a huge delay stoppage towards the Sturdy Artisans on their aggressive push.
Nobody from the Artisans know. There's no ward covers there for them. There's nobody in the area. Moswell took speed and backed, and now Fire Giant goes the way of Sleekness. They're down still around 11,000 gold or so for themselves, able to get a little bit and bump that lead down to now only 10,000. But that's a big, as you highlighted, time waster more than anything else, stripping the best buff on the map away from the Artisans.
And all those leads that we saw earlier on, they've all but dissipated here. Nearly everyone at level 20 now, aside from Sharks, but even at level 17, now Terra finally has that Spectral Armor online. No Spectrals, however, for Oath and Chronic for the time being. Instead, it's going to be the Mantle of Discord and a couple of Void Shields. Keep in mind, those Void Shields do not stack, but it does give the opportunity, I think, for Oath and Chronic to now look for separate targets in the backline instead of having to both commit to one.
Oath has just felt the brunt of a lot of the damage here. 3 and 10 on the Camazotz, 3-8 for Nehu, and 5-7 for Chronic, who's found a few more kills than the former two, but so far sitting at a high death count here for Sleekness. 34 kills on the board for the Artisans. We're only sitting 25 minutes in and nearly a total of 50 kills across the board. With this Fire Giant around, this 10k lead slowly starts to feel like a little bit less with that extra power spike you get from the buff.
The main point that I'm seeing here, though, J-Mac, is it really shouldn't even be this close, realistically. Sturdy Artisans had such a huge lead amassed, but there have just been more than one sloppy instance of this team just taking things too for granted, I think is the best way to put it, because their assumptions are, hey, we're so far ahead, we can do whatever we want, but they keep forgetting this is a Sleekness that's still trying to fight back.
I don't think Sharks forgot, or maybe he did forget that they were able to do that much damage, because he walked in and took about 3/4 up, and now he's reminded of just how much damage the Artisans can do when they're grouped up together. 4 members have the Fire Giant buff, only Chronic, the only one without it. And now they have to make their stance at the Phoenix. Into the backline, dives Relentless, but he gets the ultimate out of Dude Man, and maybe even more, as Ionic is forced to use his own lurking in the waters. Tier 2 tower falls down, and Sharks playing frontline will get the ultimate out of Pagon, but it's not going to be enough to help Relentless as he gets caught out by Oath.
Moswell, though, will find Sharks on the disengage. Griff, Ionic, relatively low, and Moswell still fully topped up, full HP. Oath seems as though he wants to keep trying to give chase here, but he's got to be careful. This is a 3-man setup by the Sturdy Artisans, and they're just waiting for their first target to approach.
They spotted Chronic and Dude Man, and immediately Ionic goes in, but he loses so much of his health from Dude Man, who's able to crunch him down. Oath is biting back with them, and Dude Man picks up a double kill in the process. Now it's just Moswell left all alone in the middle of the Sleekness jungle. He has the Assassinate to get out, but Sleekness, they picked up 4 kills. They can start trying to push down some of these towers.
I don't know that they make it to mid-Phoenix. Well, no, they shouldn't make it to mid-Phoenix before Relentless One respawns, but with Oath and Nehu being so topped up on HP, it is possible for Doomembro to try and stay alive here. He's looking for any form of sustain that he can find. Might have assumed that Moswell was chilling in Invis inside the jungle. They didn't really get any confirmation on whether or not he had truly backed, but it is going to be a Phoenix attempt currently from Sleekness.
The double assassin on the defense. Moswell and Relentless dive towards the back line. Relentless one able to make it up to the Cosmos, but is looking for Dude Man. Dunks down in the midst of it, but Dude Man is alive for only a short while until Moswell chops him up.
Moswell gonna expend both his purification beads and the Aegis, just trying to stay alive as long as possible. Oath, though, will take out Moswell before he gets one.
Manages to find one in the process, but Chronic is pushing him back, and Nehu shuts him down with the Sigil. They don't get the Phoenix, but they stagger the cooldown respawns one more time of the Artisans.
No Phoenix. Right side fire minions, though, very defendable here for Sleekness, and I believe that Phoenix going to be up shortly after this Fire Giant respawn, so it could be a good opportunity for Sturdy Artisans to maybe try and factor in some delay just to let those fire minions really stack up. It's just tough because right side Phoenix, easily the best Phoenix for Sleekness to have lost, even with Moswell. I mean, did a nice job at split pushing it while everybody else was distracted. Looking at the Sturdy Artisans in mid lane, I think the primary things that are starting to build up here are just this Ratatoskr solo, not as incredibly tanky as it was when he had a 3, 4, 5 level advantage over the members of Sleekness. Now it's Doomman Bro, Nehu, and Oath being able to finally return some fire.
Oath with this very assassin-y style build with that Mannequin's Hidden Blade. Going to do a nice percent chunk of damage to anybody who he may catch, so long as he does manage to get that passive proc, Transcendence fully stacked. And after the Void Shield, he goes for an Ankile for a little bit of magical protection against Pagon and against Ionic here as well. Now Ionic, he gets spotted out and he'll be pushed back to the right-hand side, but that's where the fire minions are, so Sleekness are fine pushing a little bit further forward just to make sure they can seal the deal. Relentless in the sky looking for Nehu. Nehu fires the ultimate in response and starts firing shots right back at the solo laner, but Relentless is just fine.
Somersault Cloud going to be expended there from Chronic. Sundering Axe also starting to put in work. Pagan's got to be careful, though. He might just be the target here himself as the rest of Sturdy Artisans continue to scatter. EFG now going to be the primary focal point here for both of these teams, but Sleekness, they've been able to do their job exceptionally well so far. They've got minion waves in their favor, pushing in now to try and combat some of those fire minions, so it'll be even easier and more feasible for Sleekness to not only defend that right side Phoenix as they continue trying to burn some time waiting for it to respawn, but they can also contest that EFG at the same time.
Oath, who had taken a lot of damage from what looked to be Moswell in a 1v1, ends up being able to heal back up. And that's the benefit of this Camazotz amongst the jungle. With this high damage build, he doesn't need a whole lot of health to get back up, as opposed to a more hybrid style. And now they're basically reset and ready to start defending against this Fire Giant. Meanwhile, we saw, 3 members of Sleekness sitting at around half health, and they're going to have to go back and regenerate if they want to try and make a stance here.
And it's only a matter of time before Sharks finally manages to hit that level 20 period, and when that happens, that's when we'll really get a chance to see exactly how even the team fight potential is between these two teams, because the Earth and Fury, yeah, in fact, Sharks is level 20 now. Fire Giant going to be pulled first by Sleekness.
Ionic gets pushed back by the Fear and has to use his own lurking in the waters to get out. Chronic a little low. Sharks pushing forward, and so is Oath, hunting for Pagon. He'll leap into the middle of 2, up into the bat out of hell, looking for the mid laner. Chunks him out for about 300 a pop, but he'll fall under the tier 2 tower as Moswell turns around for the support. Griff in the sky, looking for Snipes, hits 3 on 3 for them. Relentless with a big dive off the Cosmos, not enough as Dude Man falls down, but Griff able to trade it out and get a return kill.
Griff now going to actually roll forward, trying to see if he can combat alongside of Moswell. Moswell gets the damage application he needs. Nehu taken out as well, 3 dead. And what looked like a promising situation here for Sleekness might have been a slight overextension there from Oath. He had Pagan dead to rights just about, if it wasn't for the fact that there's 4 other members of Sturdy Artisans right behind him.
Fire minions are still here, even despite the Phoenix being respawned. This wave has been trotting up that right side and will make it there. So now it's a 2 versus 4 defense for Sharks and Chronic against the 4 strong of the Sturdy Artisans. The stone walls will miss from Sharks, but Chronic is trying to put in as much work as possible. Unfortunately for him, that's not going to be nearly enough. And Sharks, the lone defender until Oath has respawned. Moswell picks up a double. The bat out of hell is not going to be enough to save him from the damage of Raiju. Pagon picks up the kill, their 43rd one total for the set, and game number 3 goes the way of the Artisans.
Yeah, Pagan just went from prey to predator with Oath at the very end there, and it was a almost a promising game set series for the likes of Sturdy Artisans to lose, but they managed to hold on there at the very end. I think they would have felt terrible had they actually managed to lose this one up against the likes of Sleekness, but really well played to Sleekness to even combat themselves back to that point of contention in the first place.
Even being so far down, it still wasn't enough to slow down the Sturdy Artisans. They take the set, and we'll take it to a break and then come back with the deaths to close out the set.
With the slap, pin myself on the map. You long with the wind, but we knowing that it's cap. 5-hour flights, couple nights at the flat. To be real, couldn't see me making moves while I'm at. I'm still on the grind, limit time when I chat. I'm burning down sage, keep the demons away. When I write it, give a piece of myself to the page. I don't do it for the praise, love, that's just how I'm made.
Truth in the glass in the mirror. Yeah. Do it at me, old man, trying to pass in the fear. You're the first one to talk, but the last one to hear. Eyes blurry, but I couldn't see that, and he cleared down. Start to feel like I'm on one. Settle in, I'll be here for the long run. I'm a slave for the cash, got snakes in the grass, no brakes on the ad, but it's all fun. We done seen it all, heard enough, give me space before I murder y'all. 10 bad here, I'ma curb them all. 12 missed calls, and I still made a curtain call. Here to light it up, lighten up. Hear him talking, they ain't right enough, tighten up. Everything that I came for, I left with. I don't bang sets, I just bang on the set list. Going past supper when I came for the breakfast. Put me in your prayers, I might put you on the guest list. Young, to me reckless, gold in my soul, got the same on my necklace.
The Sturdy Artisans only officially win one game in this set, but the DQ by Sleekness in Game 1 is enough to give the Sturdy Artisans the advantage that they then push here in Game 3 to take the set win. This one looked like it should have been over about 15 minutes ago, and then some back-and-forth base defenses get us to 40-some-odd kills here for the Sturdy Artisans before they're finally able to fell the Titan. Miff, that's what we expect, though, in NA, isn't it? I mean, you get these high-octane, high-kill games, the never-give-up attitude, even when the odds are all against you. The Sturdy Artisans didn't have it easy here in Game 3, but they were able to get the win nonetheless.
No, Sleekness tried their best to fight back from a one-game deficit and almost did so, as you highlighted. It was very back and forth towards the end of this match, but the early game was completely dictated by one team. Sturdy Artisans, I'd argue, should not have struggled nearly as much,
right.
But maybe a couple of flounders around these Phoenixes,
5K.
around these Tier 2s, really was struggling. What was that?
So it's like 4 or 5K, 12 minutes in.
That's a lot, right?
I mean, you're right. This probably shouldn't have gone as long as it. We had 34 kills, 26 minutes into the game. It's sometimes we consider it a lot if like both teams combined have a kill a minute, but one team having more than a kill a minute and then the other team, I don't know, having another 19 or 20 kills just show you how chaotic that this game was. There's something about the Sturdy Artisans team with this Loki where you got to be careful if you're playing against them, because Moswall will not hesitate to pivot out of the mid lane, send Pagon mid, Moswall will play this Loki, and then the Sturdy Artisans team will look good. So, you know, we've mentioned the game probably should have been over, but at the, by the end of it, the Sturdy Artisans, didn't drop the ball too hard. And Moswall on this Loki Myth continues to look good. One of the only guys who's aside Cherio maybe that's willing to pick it up here in the SCC.
Yeah, Johnny used to for a little bit at the SPL level, but we haven't seen that too recently. Moswall 11-4, Oof. Griff 12-6, Oof. And then a couple 9-5s for the boys as well. Yannick not nearly as impressive unless you're a support player. Then you're looking only at that assist column at 22. But I'd argue Pagon had just as many. So Yannick dropped the ball.
My man caught a stray for no reason.
Yeah, well, 7,000 damage? God, Yannick.
Look, he mitigated 48,000 damage.
So he got hit a lot is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, he's a frontliner. You're going to get hit a lot.
Nah. I'd be out there in the front line dodging bullets.
So then they're hitting your back line.
They're not hitting anybody because they're aiming at me, and I'm dodging them. They're hitting the wall behind me.
Right. The wall of teammates that are standing behind you.
Hey, man. If you were standing in the line of fire, that's on you.
Right, and then it's on me to then just dodge them all out, I guess.
Clearly it's possible if I'm doing it.
I guess that's true. No, you're right. You've won me over, Miff. Taking no damage in a game is the right way for a frontline to play.
For anyone to play, really, not just frontline. If you're able to avoid every singular bit of damage, you played well. That's it.
This is how you win arguments, because it's an inarguable position. Yes, if you take 0 damage in a game, you're done the right thing.
You're popping off.
Oh, I hate it here. Schedule, please take this pain away. What have we got here? Sturdy Artisans versus Sleekness. Technically go all 3, but as we've mentioned, Game 1 DQ by Sleekness makes it a technical 2-game set, but the Sturdy Artisans win it in Game 3. Tiburones versus Herculean Hooves. That one is a fun matchup, and I can't wait to see who wins this Average Joes versus Winter Dogs matchup. That'll be after broadcast on Sunday, after we crown a Phase 2 SPL champion. Earlier on that day on Sunday. And the standings will inflect a little bit based on how the Herculean Hooves and the Winter Dogs matchup goes. Herculean Hooves have not lost yet. Winter Dogs have not played them yet. Both would be 4-1 if the Winter Dogs are able to win, and the Winter Dogs would then have the tiebreaker. But the next matchup, Tiburones versus Herculean Hooves, or Tiburones... Oh, no, I'm very right. Tiburones versus Herculean Hooves. I got myself all mixed up there. Our next matchup should be some fun to watch here, Miff. Tiburones, a team, Copra, Jaru, Heed, Spreen, Blugan. They've made some waves here in the North American SCC. Might be the favorites going into that matchup.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, might be. I know for a fact that Taco in the green room has got her eyes on Renjaru, has said that he's a very talented ADC player, so keep your eyes on him going forward. I think that this set is going to be pretty awesome, man. I mean, I'm very excited for it.
Yep. Yeah, I think I got Winter Dogs and Herculean Hooves all mixed up. I don't know. I messed up somewhere along the line. I'm going to give myself a break and you guys a break from me. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Tiburones versus Herculean Hooves will round out our day.
I gave up dabbing for Lynn.
Cool. No more dabbing for Final. He looked at me and said, I'm going to be on that stage next year. I'm going to become a world champion.
Ripping through! Titan down, ball 3! A double kill myself!